Oxford University. I wonder what brilliant and thought-provoking debate I'm going to be listening to today. What am I going to discover? What am I going to be educated on by the absolute pinnacle of university education? Sorry, Cambridge, but Oxford is where it's at. What are we going to find out, folks? What are we going to find out?
Peter and Brendan stood up here and complained that us students, people like Tim and me, are engaged in a discourse of censorship, that we want to silence them. I mean, funny, you don't seem very silenced. For a start, you're here. For a second, you still have your national newspaper columns. Apparently, I don't read them, but people tell me they're still out there.
Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. What's this? A really posh, privileged woman talking about how people like me and those other people are posh and privileged and need to check it. And what is this? What have I been led into? Oxford, what have you done? Cambridge, please, forgive me.
So, what you're really saying is that, not that we're trying to silence you, but that we have the audacity to try and erode the platform that our racist and misogynistic society has given to two privileged white men.
Whoa, calm down, Miss Ivory Tower. I mean, Jesus Christ. Firstly, do you even know what the definition of censorship is? I hate to use your arguments, but do you actually know what the definition is? I'm going to go ahead and say no. And secondly, sure, you're having a debate not on your own terms. Whether you like it or not, you social justice warriors do not like debating. If it was up to you, we would not be having this debate. If it was up to you, we would all be in a hug box and an echo chamber, being proud at how victimy you are. And also, isn't it funny how some like you are attacking those two men, Peter Hitchens, and I forgot the other guy's name, but he's from Spiked.com, of privilege. But that's funny because that's exactly what you are. I guess the old adage is true that...
But you don't have to be posh to be privileged.
Also, this society couldn't be the least bit racist and sexist. The cheek of one of the most privileged members of society. I mean, do you want to know what that signifier is? That accent right there. That accent in that dress, in that room. And yet you have the cheek to say that this country is racist and sexist. Firstly, I don't even think you have bothered to get out of Tunbridge Wells or wherever you're from and actually visit the wider world. You know, by the wider world, I simply mean the UK. You don't give a shit about plebs like me. You don't give a shit about the lad in Moss Side or Toxteth or fucking Tottenham. You only care about yourself. You only see what the Guardian tells you. You only see what Jezebel tells you. Take it from an actual minority. It's not that fucking bad. It could become worse. It could get worse if cunts like you keep voting in the Tory party. But, you know, we can't keep that on the high. Got to keep it on the low because, you know, we can't be having toffs being exposed as potential Tory voters, which you will be when you grow up. This will be a phase, and you will soon be posting pictures of Thatcher on your Facebook feed in a positive light rather than a negative light, and you probably hang a picture of the Queen, who you're probably related to in some capacity, on your wall in a little shrine maybe. But then again, I'm just judging. What do I know? I'm just a pleb.
That is what we are guilty of doing.
I think you'll find the jury did not find you guilty of that particular crime, love.
What you are saying is you personally have a right to that platform, which other people are not given.
You were in the exact same room when those men went up there and did their brilliant speeches. Although, to be fair, I only saw one of them, so I don't know what Peter Hitchens said, but to be quite frankly, I'd be amazed if it was not as good as yours. I'd be amazed. I don't agree with him on pretty much anything, but apart from this particular topic. Can you believe it? Me actually agreeing with the Hitchens brother that was never as good. Jesus Christ. And you know full well that that was not what they were debating. You're strawmanning them already. They were not taking away someone's platform from speech. Any one of them can go up and ask you a question. Any one of them could have taken their place if they wanted to, but they didn't. Who cares? But, you know, apparently someone's voice is more important than others. Everyone's equal, but some are more equal than others.
That you personally should maintain hegemony over that platform.
They were not arguing for some kind of mythical status quo that you are talking about. They were in fact arguing for unfettered free speech. But never mind. We can't let that get in the way of a good straw man, can we?
What we are saying is move the hell over. Other people deserve that platform. Other people who are not white, who are not men, and who are not of the people that you call privileged. Move over. And in order to do that, you have to create a space where those people can actually enter into that discourse.
Fuck your freedom of speech. Fuck your rights. Fuck everything that you have, because some people deserve it more, even though they already have it. I could totally just, go up to that platform and speak their minds, volunteered themselves to speak on behalf of freedom of speech and on their side, but for some reason they didn't, through their own personal choice. And yet now you're saying that because these people are women, because these people happen to be ethnic minorities, they deserve more of a voice because of that, not because of what they have to say, not what that they bring to the table, but because they're not white and male. Do you not realise how bigoted that sounds? You are trying to argue for bigotry, yet you are so stupid, so lacking in self-awareness, that you think you're arguing for equal rights. Isn't that funny, people?
What I want to talk about, oh no thank you, is...
Sit down, shitlord. Although to be fair, I can't laugh because they did it to each other, but oh well, in this debate, they have a right not to answer questions, but nah, fuck it. Who cares? Carry on, love. Sorry, Peter, not today.
The discourse of hypocrisy. Because when they stand up here and say that they're engaged in free speech and they want free speech for everyone, they are actively denying the discourse of censorship that they are involved in.
Hang on. For arguing for free speech, they are, in fact, censoring people. Again, I ask you, do you know what the definition of censorship is? But let us hear you. This is an open platform, and I will give you the benefit of the doubt. Milady.
Brendan, when he refuses to recognise trans people's preferred pronouns and actively misgenders them in his national newspaper columns, is engaged in a discourse of censorship.
Okay, you are actually clueless. You are actually brain dead. Grand Canyon deep brain dead. You literally do not know the definition of words, do you? You do not know the definition of censorship. Using someone's pronouns incorrectly is not censorship. That is using pronouns incorrectly. That is not censoring trans people. It can be considered rude. Again, I do not know in which context he used their pronouns or their misused pronouns, whatever, in the wrong way. I don't know how he did, but that is not censorship. What you said only a couple of seconds before was censorship. But, beggars can't be choosers.
He is saying, this is language to which I object. People calling themselves she when I think they are male is a language to which I object. I'm not going to recognise it, and I'm going to say that it is wrong. That is engaging in the discourse of censorship.
You see, I thought social justice warriors were brilliant at the dictionary definition argument, but I guess it only works at a certain point, then they just have to change it completely. It's like, oh yeah, about that argument, yeah, we don't always use it, correctly. I mean, censorship? Oh, that doesn't mean what it really means. This is what it really means. Using the wrong pronouns to describe a person. We're talking about people here, love. We're talking about people. Doesn't matter if they're transgender or not. We're talking about people, but you people always talk about these people, other people, as if they are just statistics. It's like what Joseph Stalin said. One death is a tragedy. Millions of deaths are just a statistic. I am paraphrasing him rather badly, But you see where I'm coming from, people, right? You see where I'm coming from when I said she doesn't give a shit about trans people. She only cares about the agenda. The trans people are but a shield for which she hides behind, so that hopefully the logic bullets hit them rather than her. But it doesn't work, because logic bullets are so sharp it basically do everything to get to their target. They never ever fail to reach their target. They always hit and never miss.
It's also so arrogant to engage in that discourse when you are not a stakeholder in it. It matters nothing to you whether or not a trans person chooses to identify in whatever way, but you are so arrogant as to think that you are allowed to censor them from doing that.
Calm down, dear.
You see, don't start screaming at people about censorship when you actually do not know what censorship is. So just calm down, dear. It's only a debate.
Utterly repulsive. No, thank you. I'm coming to you, don't worry.
Oh, she's coming for you, Honky. She's coming for you. Better be careful, Hitch. She's coming for you. She smells blood. And for a terrible joke, but I had to say it anyway. And so this is how free speech dies, with applause.
Peter Hitchens, when you write that a discourse of Islam is what causes Muslim men to rape, you are engaged in a discourse of censorship.
No, he's not. He is not censoring Muslims. He is not censoring the religious. Why would he? He is religious himself. Talking about misogynist elements within Islam is not censorship. If he was doing it about his own religion, Christianity, you would not batter an eyelid. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with me and the others. You would not batter an eyelid if he was talking about the other Abrahamic religions.
You are saying that the discourse of Islam is something that is wrong, something that should not be allowed, something that you object to.
I can't believe that I am defending Peter Hitchens. I'm defending Peter Hitchens. This is what you lot have reduced me to, defending people that I am diametrically opposed to. But because I agree with him on this one point, that you're wrong and we're right about the whole, free speech and social justice and all that bollocks, that I had to defend him. I had to defend him. Now look, I haven't read his article. I don't know if it was in the Telegraph or another publication that he writes for, but I would not be surprised that what he shouted out then, I did not say that. He didn't say that, because you've done nothing but strawman them the entire debate. All you have done is strawman them and redefine what censorship means. And yet you think you know exactly what you're talking about, but you clearly don't, love. You don't. I can't believe I'm defending him. Thanks a lot. This is the state of us left-wingers right now. We're fighting each other, and I have to defend a crazy right-wing nut like Peter Hitchens. This is madness. No, this is Oxford.
Yeah, go for it.
Is it not true that to have a different opinion isn't the same as telling other people that they shouldn't have or they can't have that opinion?
Oh, what's that? It's bang out of order, isn't it? It's bang out of order where all the audience members are glad that someone sane and rational put you in your place. That is the sound of you losing the debate before it's even actually got into full sway. How does it feel? See, this is why social justice warriors don't debate, because when they do, shit like this happens.
Let me tell you how a difference of opinion would work.
Oh, the look on her face was priceless. Oh, she didn't like that. She didn't like being pwned hard. That was beautiful. That was a beautiful moment. Anyway, let's see her explain the difference of opinion then. Over to you, Katie.
A difference of opinion would be for Peter to say, I am not a Muslim, but others can be. That is a difference of opinion. A difference of opinion is for Brendan to say
And the audience groans from yet more stupidity. A difference of opinion is some Muslims like that, but not all Muslims are like that. Jesus Christ, this person is just yammering and yapping on about bullshit. She's not had a coherent argument yet, and this is the reaction that she gets. This is the reaction that these people will inevitably get when their arguments get actual public exposure. She's talking out of her ass. This is crazy. This is brilliant. This is not what she thought she'd be getting when she stood up to that kind of little podium-y type thing and thought that she'd be having everyone with her by her side, that people would love the fact that she's fighting for social justice. But no, all we see is a privileged brat lecturing the world on how privileged they are and how people should have their rights taken away and other people be given more on the basis of superficial bullshit like their gender and their race and whatever. It's not good when you get embarrassed, is it?
Say that I am not someone who is a transsexual, but other people, if they are, that is something that I respect. That is difference of opinion, and I'm going to talk to you exactly why this engages in this discourse of censorship. Fundamentally, the purpose of free speech is an instrumental good. It's not like, because if you're saying something to yourself in your room, it's meaningless. It's about creating meaning for societal change. So what Brendan wanted to talk about when he was like, lags, mags, that's equal to what Shelley did. I mean, whatever. But the purpose then is to further democracy. It's to say, be able to challenge power and to be able to speak truth to power. It's not about being able to shut other people out. And the problem is that the platform at the moment isn't equal.
That's exactly what you have been arguing for. To take away someone's right to free speech, to drown someone out, to silence them. That's what you have been doing. That is what your movement has been doing for the past 30 years, 40 years, hell, 50 years. That's what you have been doing. And that's what you have been advocating for in that debate, in your argument. That's what you've been arguing for. But you know, don't mind me. I'm wrong because I'm a male and I'm privileged. Oh. So sorry, milady.
It's not the case that we all have the same privileges, that we all have the same access to national newspaper columns, that we are all listened to. I mean, the fact that we're all here and so privileged and other people are not invited demonstrates that there's an act of privileging people when you give them a platform.
Firstly, there's two things wrong in that stupid statement, and I'm gonna go through one by one. The first one, people don't have access to news columns. Yes, they do. The blogosphere exists for a reason. You can make your own news site for next to nothing. You can start a blog. I mean, I know it's a whole, kind of slippery slope and foggy atmosphere when it comes to what is the difference between a blogger and a journalist. But a person can talk about the news, create their own column through the blogosphere. In fact, there is a online magazine or a journalistic outlet in Miami. I forgot its actual name. But it's one of the main journalistic outlets there that allow other people who aren't journalists to, write articles for them. And they're doing that for Gamergate. They're doing that for Gamergaters. Oh, speaking of Gamergate, this will be, relevant in a bit, but I'm not going to spoil it. So people do have that right. They do have the ability to do so if they want to. The second problem is that you think that everyone in that room have been invited specifically for that. They're privileged because they've been invited, but nobody else has. Despite the fact that this is being filmed. This is being filmed. Do you not see the cameras filming you from different angles, filming the audience from different angles? That's because it's being live streamed to thousands, and then it will be left on the internet forever, and millions will be watching this potentially. Yet you're so unaware, your lack of self-awareness is so astounding that you fail to see that. You think it's a privilege that just because all of you in the room, therefore you're the only ones who are going to be there to debate and watch it. No, you fool. You are wrong. Loads of people will be watching this, and you just embarrassed yourself in front of the world. Well done. You really smashed the patriarchy that time, didn't you?
And the problem is that when you engage in the discourse that these men do, when you say that other people are lesser, that their choices are lesser, and those are the people that are least privileged in those society, that is when they are unable to engage in our discourse.
But they never said that though, did they? And you know that. You know that they never said someone is lesser than somebody else. That's you saying that. That's you projecting and trying to shame them. You are trying to say that these guys are bigots, don't listen to them. When actually they've not been bigoted. They've been very courteous and having to put up with your straw man and lies. It's you who is doing that. It is you who is saying that their opinion and their right to freedom of speech is less important than other people's because of superficial reasons that I've already mentioned. Superficial reasons! Things that we should not be judging people on, but that you people continually judge us on. Continually. And you have the cheek to go up there and talk about privilege. To talk about these men being bigots. Peter Hitchens has said some dumb shit in his life. He has said some bigoted things. But he isn't being bigoted here, and neither is the other man. They are not being bigoted here. The only bigot is you. But you can't see that. You can only see you, the shining light of social justice feminism, fighting the man and the patriarchy. But really, you're just a bit of a laughing stock right now.
What we want to do on our side is to even the platform and to say if you need to do that, you can't engage in racist language and you can't engage in sexist language. That's something we're okay with because we think the voice of ethnic minorities and women is more important than the right of these men to be misogynistic and racist. That's something we incredibly stand for on our side.
I'm sorry, but what gives you the right to tell us what is racist and sexist language? Because with you social justice warriors, that meaning of what is sexist and racist is constantly widening. We don't know if we're being sexist or racist. 1 minute we are, the next minute we're not. 1 minute we're privileged, the next minute we're not. I'm looking at you, Marina, shut up. Yeah, white passing privilege, yeah. That bullshit. And the only person who's being racist and sexist here is you. You, the racist one, for using ethnic minorities as fucking shields to hide behind. You, the neo-colonialist, wanting to, bring them out of unprivilege and into privilege. That kind of bullshit. The noble savage type thing. The missionary going off to India to convert the Hindus and the Muslims. But causing a lot of chaos instead, resulting in one of the worst separations of state ever. But never mind. I mean, they were my ancestors. They were your fucking ancestors. You're the establishment, don't forget. You're the ones who sent my ancestors to Trinidad. Don't forget that. And then sent them back over here to Manchester. Because of the labour shortage. I know I'm getting into history, but I digress. You can talk about privilege. You can fucking talk about racism and sexism when your fucking class is steeped in murky waters. Murky history. And I know I digressed massively, but bear in mind, this is me basically calling her a hypocrite. And she's sexist because, her racism's also against other white people as well. Isn't that crazy? Those other two white guys are getting racially abused by her, technically, by her standards. By saying that their right to freedom of speech, their right to freedom of expression, their right to get up there and say what they want to her face is less important to someone who isn't white for superficial reasons. Skin colour, your sex, your gender, whatever. They're superficial reasons. She's sexist for that as well. Because they're men, they have less of a right. And that apparently 2 wrongs make a right. This woman is talking out of her ass. This is one of the worst arguments I've ever heard for social justice. And I'm not surprised that those groans that I cut out by accident were being voiced. Because she's an nincompoop. She's crazy. They don't like her.
Okay, so you're not a sexist.
No amount of backpedaling is gonna stop you from trying to get away from that ad hominem that almost became an insult that you spewed out of your mouth. This is a train wreck. And this is the best that feminism and social justice could muster to debate us. Seriously? This is why they don't debate us. Because they're rubbish at it. They can't do it.
So lads' mags aren't sexist?
No, they're not. Are women's mags sexist? Like Cosmopolitan at all? Are they sexist? Because they appeal to women? Why should a lads' mag be sexist? Because it appeals to men. You're not even the core demographic that they're targeting. It's me. people like all the other men in the audience. I don't read lads' mags. I just don't read them. I've never read them. My thing is more novels and history books and the occasional comic book. But aside from that, no, they're not sexist just because they appeal to men. It could be debatable if they are sexist. I mean, what do you mean? Is it the way they show women? I mean, they show good-looking women on the cover. They show good-looking men on the cover. And the women's magazines do the same. They're all pretty much following the same pattern, the same mould, the same way that they can grab an audience. The women's mags use young, attractive men and women, or sometimes older, but older people who have a reputation. And the men's do the same. The women and the men's do the exact same thing. They have these lovely models and actors and successful people, and they put them on the cover to attract people to read them. Women like sexy women, men like sexy women, women like sexy men like sexy men too, believe it or not. These lads' magazines are not sexist for that. If there probably could be some sexist material in there, but again, I don't know what's sexist to you. You're just saying these magazines are all sexist. You don't even know what kind of lad they're even referring to. Do you mean the working class man who goes to the pub? I'm not trying to be stereotypical here, but this is what I always think you guys don't like. You don't like the stereotypical white working class man who goes to the pub, he plays some pool, hangs out with his mates. He likes to get a bit boisterous, likes to play a bit of Call of Duty every now and then. He hasn't got a lot of money, but, you know, he likes to have a good time. Single, obviously. You don't like these guys. I don't know why. I think it probably stems from classism on your part, and your sexism, and your racism, which is weird. I mean, you're racist to your own people, but never mind. You know, anyone can be racist to their own people. What the fuck? It just shows skin colours only goes so deep, or whatever they call it. I forgot. You know, I mean, Jesus. You don't like these things because they exist. There is no rational reason why you hate a lad's mag. A lad's mag could be anything. It could just be about cars. You know, just cars. It could be about DIY. It could be about comic books. It could be absolutely anything. A lad's mag could be anything. But I know what you mean. You mean things like Loaded and Nuts and Zoo. All those kinds of magazines. And they're still not sexist because the people that are in those magazines are fully consenting. They know exactly what they're doing. And if it were sexist, I don't think the women would be contributing to those magazines now, would they, love? I wasted 3 minutes talking about that, but I want to see where you know, carry your argument forward from here on.
The problem is that these men have the ability to denigrate people within their national newspaper columns.
Oh, really? Well, so do you. I've seen you denigrate these men to their faces. You've done nothing but denigrate men and people who are anti-feminist, people who are for freedom of speech. You've done nothing but denigrate them and ad hominem them and fucking strawman them. You've done nothing but denigrate them. I've seen Jezebel, Gawker, even though the two are mutually exclusive, they are, you know, under the same umbrella. The Guardian, Mary Sue, I could go on. Denigrating people, denigrating men, denigrating women, because they don't fit the feminist mould, or just because they're men, or because feminist agenda. I have seen you do it too. Do not stand there and say to us that these men have the power to denigrate. So do you, and you have done so.
They can say that trans people are lesser, that their choices are lesser, that ethnic minorities shouldn't be welcomed in our society. No, thank you.
You keep saying that they can do this and they have said this, but you've not once given us any evidence. You have not quoted either Hitchens or the other man, I keep forgetting his name, that they have denigrated trans people in some way. Most normal and sane trans people don't care that the wrong pronouns are used. They don't like it, but you know what they're gonna do. They don't expect someone to know the pronouns. They're not good. They don't expect people to be mind readers. Like how I don't expect people to immediately know that I've got Asperger's syndrome and that I'm mixed race. You just cannot expect people to read your mind. They can't do that. And also, I expect evidence of this so-called maltreatment of trans people. So far, all it is a straw man. This is all you have, a straw man, and this is your argument, if you can call it that.
But Other people don't have the ability to denigrate them in the same way. An unemployed black trans woman does not have the ability to reply to Brendan O'Neill in a national newspaper column.
Yes, she does. It's called the internet. She can email him. She can write a comment in the comment section of the article. And hopefully, if they're not doing what The Guardian does and deletes any comments that go against the grain, her voice will be heard. She can make a blog that can reach out to potentially millions and billions of people saying that Peter Hitchens has got this wrong. She can make a YouTube video like I'm doing now. She can go on a live stream like you did and say he was wrong. She has myriads of reasons. She can write a letter to the Telegraph or whoever Hitchens writes for. She can fucking phone them up. She has loads of options. Just because she's a trans, unemployed black person doesn't mean that she does not have the means. That is racist. That is sexist. The fact that you think that without you, without your voice, without your privilege, these people cannot defend themselves. There's a reason why hashtag Not Your Shield exists. It's because people like you, speaking for all white people, speaking on behalf of all ethnic minorities and trans people and gay people and bisexual people, etc, etc, etc. They're tired of it. They can speak for themselves. They have the means. They have the means to do it. This is a free society. This is the information age with the internet. The internet has allowed us to spew our opinions across the world. Anyone could see this person's opinion and it could go viral. It might not go viral, but her voice will be heard by at least someone. If not by her friends, but by someone who just happens to see her blog. You are lying, and you are using them as a shield. You are being racist and sexist by basically just turning them into a statistic, taking away their agency. And that's wrong. That is worse than what you have strawmanned those two men into making people think they said. But no one believes you. Just listen to the audience reactions.
Moreover, she is incredibly less likely to do so when that national newspaper column creates a discourse in a world that she is not welcome, that her choices are not welcome, and that she is not respected.
Alright, love. This is where I again vehemently disagree with you. Hitchens and this other guy are not creating an atmosphere where this woman is not feeling appreciated and not feeling welcome. Yesterday, I was walking home, hungover, and really ill from a night out. I had to take the tram because I couldn't take the bus because they were cancelled. Do you know why they were cancelled? At least temporarily cancelled. The routes were diverted because of Manchester Pride. Manchester Pride, where trans people, gay people, bi people, lesbian people, straight people celebrate gay pride. They celebrate the community that has given so much to this city since time immemorial, since the founding, since the Romans first came here. There was no hatred. I saw no hatred. I saw nothing but unity and love. I saw unity and love. I saw them parading, people waving and cheering. I saw no hatred. Most of the crowd would have been straight, although most of the people in the parade would have been, LGBT. But that's besides the point. I am not using Manchester as an example of the whole of the UK, but this is not the only city that has a pride. All major cities that I can think of, London, Birmingham, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Cardiff, Swansea, Liverpool, they all have a pride. And you're saying that using the wrong pronouns are making these people feel unwelcome and hated? Give me a fucking break and go out there and live in the real world rather than in your hug box, in your safe little £100,000 plus house with your rich parents and your rich families. Go out there and experience the world, but oh no, you won't, because we're just dirty plebs to you. We're just a shield. We're only useful for your politics. We're useful for your career. Well fucking done, love. How brilliant, how fantastic you are. How empathetic you are with these people. You really know they're suffering. You know fuck all.
Brendan complains about the fact that this are white people who are representing the rights of black people, etc. And the whiteness of Oxford and the Union is incredibly deplorable, but probably more explicable.
So you do admit to all my criticisms of you then, that you're basically white people speaking on behalf of all these minority groups who don't particularly need your voice, by the way. Is that what you're saying? But let's just see where you take this.
When we have a president who thinks it's acceptable to invite Marine Le Pen. Sorry, Lisa.
You see, this is your problem. This is what the free speech people were complaining about. You just proved their point. You are against freedom of speech. Le Pen is a horrible fascist. She is a fascist. Don't get me wrong. She's a deplorable person. She's horrible. But she still has the right to speak her views. She still has the right to let those views be heard, whether we hate it or not, whether we think it's horrible and abhorrent and racist. No, I agree with you, she's horrible, but she still has that right, and we have the right to speak back and debate her and show her arguments for what they are. She's not going to make the whole of Britain fascist. She's not going to make the whole of France fascist. She hasn't. They failed, which is why Sarkozy and Hollande were in power, are now in power. You know, Hollande is in power because the French people are not fascists. They will not vote for Le Pen because they have debated her points. They have seen all the different points of view and realised, no, we're not fascists, especially since we were conquered by them 60 years ago. No, 70 years ago now. And her spouting her views in a public forum is not going to change many people's minds. There may be some people, but look, hey, at least they had your opinion too. And if anything, maybe you need to work on your arguments. But don't attack the president for at least, you know, giving this person her freedom of speech dues. At least this person does believe in it, unlike you. And you basically undermined your argument there by saying that. So, you know, more fool you.
We want to create an atmosphere on our side where we actually have all people have freedom of speech.
Where you are arguing has proven the exact opposite of that, actually. The exact opposite.
And that has to be facilitated by a welcoming atmosphere.
What do you mean a welcoming atmosphere? Do you mean a hug box? Do you mean an echo chamber where only your opinions are heard, or opinions that you approve of? Is that what you mean by free speech? The freedom of speech to say exactly what we want you to say when you want to say it. But if you say something that we don't like, then it's not freedom of speech. It's but. You are a reverse Voltaire, to quote Mick Hume. You are not for freedom of speech. You are only for the freedom of your agenda and your viewpoint, and nobody else's. Which is why you complained about Le Pen. If you were for freedom of speech, you would not have complained about the president to her face that she invited a fascist to speak at Oxford. Okay? Do you not realise that oxymoron, that you contradicted yourself? But you're not self-aware, so of course you wouldn't. You're brainwashed by social justice. This is your view of what free speech is. It's an bastardised version of it.
And the problem is that offence actively perpetuates censorship of marginalised groups.
Citation needed, and also offence is taken, not given. Offence cannot create censorship. If anything, censorship destroys offence. That's why we have censorship. That's why you want to censor these guys, because you are offended by them. Do you not understand? You saying that these men's rights to freedom of speech are less important than some other people's because of superficial reasons, like skin colour, like race, like gender. That is bigoted. That is against freedom of speech. But, you know, I'm arguing in circles now.
Why? Because the lads mags that Brendan wants to talk about are the things that perpetuate a discourse that women's voices in the public sphere are less worthy.
What the fuck? They don't even appeal to you. You are not their attended audience. How the hell are they stopping you from speaking? They're just there in the shops. They're there in the shops, just there for men to read. Go. You could say the exact same thing for women's magazines, but you won't because you're a sexist hypocrite. That's why. What you have just said is not censorship. They are not stopping women's voices from being heard. Why are you having this debate? You tried to spin that argument on them, yet you're the one saying that your voice is not being heard. Feminists all the time complain about their voices not being heard, yet they have the UN asking Emma Watson to be their voice for women, he for she. They have fucking Rebecca Watson. They have Reclaim the Night. They have a day devoted to stopping violence against women. We don't have a day devoted against violence against men. We don't have someone representing men in the UN because we're just expected to deal with it. We've got to be strong because we're men. We don't have any problems. That is sexism. That is bigotry. Hell, it could even be censorship, but I don't think so, because that might be stooping to your argument.
It's the sexist discourses that you get in large magazines which create the atmosphere in which men think it's legitimate to tell women who publish on the internet, to tell women journalists and women politicians that their voices are less meaningful.
Citation needed. You're not giving us any evidence at all for these spurious strawmanning claims, love. Come on, lads magazines appeal to men. They don't try and stop women doing what they want to do. They only appeal to men. That's their core demographic. Their only demographic they're interested in. They're not interested in you. They're interested in men. Okay?
To sexualise and denigrate the appearance of women.
Citation needed.
And this is the thing that stops women from speaking out, from stops women being on the internet. This is the thing that creates Gamergate.
They just can't stop dropping Gamergate, can they? They just cannot stop naming us. Always hated, but never ignored people. They fear us, that they have to keep constantly talking about Gamergate. Never mind the fact she doesn't know what Gamergate is actually about, which is it's about ethics in games journalism and for freedom of speech and freedom of expression. All the things that you aren't for. You see, if you were for freedom of speech, you would be a Gamergater. But you're a feminist and a social justice warrior and an authoritarian/totalitarian, so, you're kind of not going to be, are you?
Where men think it is legitimate to threaten women with violence if they don't shut up.
Citation needed, because so far I've only seen one person trying to stop someone's freedom of speech, and that is you. I would like you to ask the fine young capitalists whether or not Gamergate hates women. As if Gamergate is trying to stop women from expressing themselves and from speaking online, because if it weren't for Gamergate, they would have gone bankrupt. They would have been destroyed by two social justice warriors and feminists called Zoe Quinn and I forgot the other girl's name, who basically doxed the company because they didn't like them. They didn't like the fact that there was a feminist gaming company helping women enter the industry. So you would rather support someone like Zoe Quinn, who attacks her own movement, feminists who help women, because she didn't like what they were doing. She didn't like because they didn't appeal to her. They didn't do what she wanted them to do. But you're going to denigrate them and Gamergate. Gamergate, who helped them, who helped release their game, which is now out this week. It is out this week. If it weren't for Gamergate, those people would just... They would never got that game made. They would never have had Vivian James. You don't know anything. You know nothing. You just know... All you know is your hug box and your echo chamber. And let's not forget the countless other charities that have benefited from Gamergate's goodwill. If it weren't for them, they wouldn't have raised thousands of pounds in charity. Hundreds of thousands. What has Anita Sarkeesian done? Well, we don't know what she's done with her money. I can assume she lined her own pockets. What has Zoe Quinn done for women? What has Brianna Wu done for women? Nothing. Gamergate has done far more for minorities, far more for women, than your entire movement has done in 40 years. The women's movement that you desecrated, the women's movement that has succeeded for years in managing to get you where you are now, has been pissed on by you. The hard work of all those, of the Pankhursts, of Pitsy, of Palia, the hard work of all the famous women who managed to, help you in the courts, with abortion, with contraception, etc., etc. Without them, you won't be here. Feminism didn't get you here. The women's movement got you here. Those women, the ones the unsung heroes got you there. Not you. But, I don't know, I'm just a sexist shitlord to you, so never mind.
And this is the discourse to which you are actively participating.
Shaming the audience with no real argument or substance. Typical social justice tactics. To the people in that audience, don't feel ashamed by this woman. She's trying to shame you to get you on her side. She's trying to scare you. You've done nothing wrong in allowing those guys to speak. You're not stopping anyone's freedom of speech. You are not hurting women. You are not hurting the LGBT community. You are not helping ethnic minorities like myself. If anything, you are helping us by allowing this debate to happen, to be in that audience, to call her out on her bullshit, to listen to the two sides. That is all we need you to do. You have done nothing wrong. Don't let us shame you.
And that is the problem. It means that all of these people whose voices should be heard in a principle of freedom of speech are not heard. I'll take you now. No? No PR1?
Yes,
Go
indeed.
for it.
Yeah,
You expected an applause there before you let Hitchens speak. We'll get to Hitchens in a bit. But isn't it funny that nobody applauded you? Because they thought you were talking absolute bullshit. Because your voice is being heard. Well, your voice is being heard. These other people's voices aren't being heard because you're not letting them talk. Literally, when they said that you're speaking for them and stopping them from speaking, that's exactly what we mean. This is why Not Your Shield happens. It's funny how you neglect to mention Not Your Shield, obviously, in your little stab at Gamergate, you know. We can't let the truth interfere with the agenda now, can we?
you said at the beginning that you didn't read our columns, and it's absolutely evident from what you've said this evening that you don't.
Okay. So,
You see? No citations needed from you because, you know, who needs to read their articles? You know, at least you admitted it earlier and it shows in your non-existent argument. And you see, that is the applause of an audience who agrees with your enemies. An audience that knows someone who isn't speaking bullshit. And Peter Hitchens speaks a lot of bullshit sometimes. But occasionally he does get things right. I have learnt to give people credit since I've started, you know, my 20s, and I've started to grow up. I don't know how old you are, but I'm going to guess you're a fresher or something, okay? I could be wrong. You might be actually a third year like me, although I'm a graduate, but, you know. When you get older, you start to, you know, mature, and maybe, you know, realise that it's best to hear people out, and then judge it based on the evidence. But you don't care about that. It's just la 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 la, like a little kid. Don't care, my way or the highway. You cannot appreciate things that might actually be pretty good. And Hitchens, for once, said something succinct, which absolutely murked you. You got pwned, big time, girl, big time.
don't worry, I do my research.
Look at you. You're like, it's like you're trying to ride a bicycle backwards, but it's just so bad with you backpedaling. It's so bad. Face it, you didn't do your research. You didn't do your research.
And the thing I'm referring to is when Peter Hitchens said about the rapes that had occurred in Oxford, that obviously the fact that these were Muslims was important, because if you engage in a discourse where you think of other people as infidel and think of other people as lesser, that makes you more likely to be a rapist. That's why Muslims are more likely to be rapists. Exactly what you said.
Where? When?
2013. Look it up. You wrote it. Google it.
I didn't.
Right.
I didn't.
Okay.
You got the wrong person.
The problem is that this is. I mean, obviously, I did my research before the rape. That's just.
Why, you little right? Shut you!
Stop! Stop! He's already dead.
Oh, stop it, Hitchens. Please, my sides. My sides.
Moronic to say that I didn't. Check it yourself. You should remember what you write, especially when it's that offensive.
I'm sorry, Katie, but the burden of proof is on you, not him. Hitchens isn't the one who has to give you your evidence. This isn't... What the hell? What kind of debate is this? If I was a prosecuting lawyer, I'm not exactly going to ask the defendant to give me the evidence for my case. I will already have the evidence with me. It's your job to fact check. It's your job to have all the citations and the articles in question, not just spout drivel about something that may or may not even exist. You're strawmanning him, technically speaking, love.
You should get a new search engine.
The reason is that this also leads to harm, right?
Shit, son. Hitchens is laying the smackdown on her. He doesn't even need to try hard. Oh my god.
The reason why this discourse is so instrumental in perpetuating violence is obvious. Because apartheid doesn't make any sense if people aren't engaged in a discourse of racism. It would collapse under its own ridiculousness.
Oh, speaking of apartheid and segregation, which side was it that told Jeremy Corbyn that it was a good idea to have gender segregated railway trains and tube trains? Seriously? Seriously? And you're accusing us of apartheid? Or rather trying to use apartheid as an argument against us? Give me a break.
It has to be buttressed by that discourse.
You what, mate?
Homophobic attacks make no sense without a discourse that legitimizes homophobia, without playing into that discourse and being part of that conversation. Transphobic attacks make no, and all of the trans women and trans men who die in this country and other countries makes no sense without the discourse that Brendan O'Neill specifically perpetuates when he refuses to recognise their chosen gender identity.
What the fuck? Are you seriously suggesting that a man who has actually been arguing for unfettered free speech is somehow responsible for killing trans people, for causing their high suicide rate, which may actually be more to do with their own mental state than him using the wrong pronouns? I mean, I think using the wrong pronouns would be low on the list for someone who's got gender dysphoria, don't you think? If I was trans, I think I'd be trying to, rebuild my life, getting used to the new body and shit. I don't think the pronouns would be that much of an issue. At least, not initially. And then maybe later on you can start correcting people. I don't know. I'm just a guy. What the fuck? Seriously though. People saying what they want. This will not happen. You are using a slippery slope argument. You are trying to use the debating skills of a creationist. You're using creationist tactics here. The slippery slope. No. Oh, if these people continue to say things like this, gay people are gonna suffer. Minorities are gonna suffer. Trans people are gonna die. No, they're not. No, they're not. They'll be fine. They were fine when people used the wrong pronoun. I've used the wrong pronouns. My friends who are trans are fine. They recovered from it. They were fine. Remember, there are pressing issues in their community that need to be addressed, and the pronouns are low on the list. But never mind. I'm just waxing lyrical here. Carry on.
Islamophobic attacks in the UK make absolutely no sense without a discourse of Islamophobia, without the discourse that Peter Hitchens himself perpetuates. What we want is freedom of speech.
No, you do not. No, you don't.
And we want freedom of speech for everyone.
Unless they happen to look like those guys you're debating, but I don't know. Whatever, man.
And unfortunately that means we're going to have to get these guys to shut up for a while and give the platform to someone else.
Oh yeah, you're totally for freedom of speech. You are so totally for freedom of speech that people actually have to shut up, because apparently their freedom of speech is less important than other people's for superficial reasons. I keep repeating myself, but such is the circular nature of these arguments that we end up going around and around and around. But Jesus Christ, I mean, you claim to be for freedom of speech, yet you have to silence someone in order to have it. Earth to Katie, does this not compute in your head that might be a contradiction? It's okay, self-awareness isn't really a strong point. It's kind of a trait in your movement. Notice how she didn't get quite the reception she wanted, and that was just polite applause that we get at the end of every debate. Well, this one exhausted me, people. When I first saw this on the Drunken Peasants podcast, I was just incensed, and then when I was doing the video this morning, I started laughing at her, but then I had to go somewhere else, so I left it for a bit. I came back to finish it off, and I got angry again because it's just incredible. This is just, if normal people want to see what a social justice warrior is, if I could point them to any example that isn't, the literally who's, it would be her. It would be her. And you know what? I would love to say that it comes from a rather maligned place, a bit of malice, but I don't think so. I think she's genuinely young and naive and kind of doesn't know what she's on about. I mean, she got schooled by guys who are, they're more experienced than her, but still, experience shouldn't count. Yeah, everyone knows if they're part of a group that has debates. History has debates, politics has debates. Hell, even gender studies has debates, even if it is just all one-sided and echo-chambery. They all know how a debate works. You have your evidence, you have your argument, and, you have to refute the points and not strawman people and use logical fallacies like she did. But, I think it's probably too late for her. She'll, become the next social justice warrior to come out of Oxford, I guess. The big one. Anyway, so, this has been Shyman93. Like, share the video, subscribe to my channel, and I'm going to get a cup of tea, and I'll see you later.